Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we would like to honor a legend of AIC men's basketball and basketball in the Springfield area, Henry Payne. Henry Payne's basketball career took off at Commerce High School in his native Springfield, where he was the 1964 Lahovich Award winner as the top high school player in Western Massachusetts. With Commerce, Henry scored 1,358 points in just 61 games, including 629 points in 21 games his senior year. Most notably, he scored 64 points against St. Stephen's of Worcester, a record that stood until 1991. Henry was recruited by several of the elite programs in the country at the time, including UCLA and North Carolina. Ultimately, Henry chose to stay home and came to AIC, where he played basketball for the Yellow Jackets from '65 to 1968. Henry set every assist record in the AIC record book, finishing his remarkable collegiate career with 748 assists. Henry also holds the school marks for assists in a season with 280 in 1965-1966, and for a single game with 24 versus Worcester Polytech in 1965-66, standing as a single game high. In addition to his individual successes, Henry helped lead the Yellow Jackets to the first 3 NCAA tournament berths in school history, including 3 trips to the NCAA championships in Evansville, Indiana. The Yellow Jackets posted a combined 58-19 record during his 3 seasons at the college, making him one of the winningest players in the history of AIC. Henry wrapped up his collegiate career with 958 total points. He has since been inducted into the New England Basketball Hall of Fame, and in 2006 was inducted into the AIC Athletics Hall of Fame. Henry taught and coached at Commerce following graduation and led the basketball team to Western Mass Championships, earning his MBA from AIC in 1975. Now, after serving as an aide to Springfield Mayor William Sullivan, Henry worked as a human resource specialist at Milton Bradley. Following stints as the director of human resources at Cox Communications and Harvard Vanguard Medical in Boston, Henry returned to the Springfield area, where he still resides, to direct human resources for Hasbro. Currently, Henry serves as the director of human resources for the Hampden County Registrar of Deeds. Please join us in welcoming a true AIC basketball legend, Henry Payne. At this time, we would like to introduce from the 1st Massachusetts Congressional District, the Honorable Richard Neal, to the podium to give a few remarks.
Thank you, Henry and Mr. Mayor, Denise Jordan, Frank Appendisano, and the pantheon of high school sports stars that have come here today. Just pretty remarkable that you would assemble in the name of our friend Henry Payne. I first met Henry Payne when I was 10 years old at the Springfield Boys Club. And we've been friends ever since. And I want to just say this, you could not have, he's about 4 years older than me, you could not have lived in Springfield in the late 50s and early 60s without knowing of Henry Payne. A life that was marked by modesty on and off the court. You wouldn't know he was in the room if he walked in or walked out, because he never called attention to himself. Never once did you ever hear Henry Payne boast or brag. And here's something else I think that's pretty remarkable. About 2 months ago, we were at the Springfield Boys Club again, after all these years, in which we named a room for another pal of all of us, Art Jones. And Art Jones was such a mentor in our lives. He was a coach at the Boys Club when I met Henry. Jack Troy, whose granddaughter works for me, and here at AIC, Bill Callahan. Those were the three coaches that he had along the way. But I also would say this, that I was here the first night that AIC opened this gym. They played UConn. And UConn had Wesley Balasuknia. And I was laughing with Bobby Rutherford a few moments ago. I said, Wesley Balasuknia could throw him in from Roosevelt Avenue. And the other guy that they had was Toby Kimball. And I watched AIC beat Julius Erving when they were at UMass. And you talk about the remarkable achievements that Henry had along the way. And he said to me today, as he hugged me, he said, thanks for coming. I said, every time I ever needed you along the way, there was never a second phone call. You were there, and I've never forgotten it. And for all of us who watched you along the way with that modesty again and friendship and loyalty, what a great day this is for you and your family. And I'd have to lend myself to a little bit of humor as I close. I told Rabbi Ryan I was coming over here. And Rabbi said, just remind Henry, it was my passes that made him what he was. Congratulations, Henry Payne.
Thank you, Congressman Neal. At this time, we'd like to introduce the mayor of the city of Springfield, the Honorable Dominic Sarno.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Henry, smooth on and off the court. Henry Payne. To President Vince Maniaci, and by the way, my youngest daughter, Kiara, is having a great time here at AIC. To our congressman and our friend, Chairman Richie Neal. Henry, of course, to my former chief of staff, Denise Jordan, and to Mr. Opedizano, an old South End boy from Winthrop Street. It is great to be here, and I'm very honored to say a few words on behalf of my friend Henry Payne. I got to be honest with you, and I told Candy Lash, too, when I received the notice. I said, you haven't retired Henry's jersey yet? I thought it was years ago with the Hall of Fame. But I'm glad that this is a special second event for Henry. My father, who just passed away, would tell me about the legendary games, high school, Cathedral, Jeannie Reisowitz and Henry Payne, the old Springfield College field house, packed to the gills, 500 people, 1,000 outside. And then Henry was always very, very modest. And I tell people all the time, you hear about Travis Best. You hear about Vinny Del Negro, who I played a little ball with. You hear about Mario Eli. Mario and I was a couple classes when I was here at AIC in the early 80s. Before all of them was Henry Payne. Henry could have played for John Wooden at UCLA. Henry could have played down at North Carolina. Henry scored all those points before the three-point shot. But Henry, his head, his heart, his gut was about family and home, which was about Springfield, and making sure his mom was always taken care of. And for that reason, we were very lucky that Henry never left Springfield, stayed here, put AIC on the map. And he had some great teammates here. Moose Stronzik, Jimmy Calhoun, the Hall of Fame coach, Bobby Rutherford, Mr. Pedazano, we can go on and on with all the teammates, right here, and took them to the cups of the national championship in Evansville, right here at AIC, a rich and cherished and storied tradition of American International College. So, Henry, we're always forever grateful to you. And I know he did some time with politics, too. In Mayor Billy Sullivan's office, this is quite an all-star lineup, too. You had Richie Neal was an aide. Henry Payne was an aide. So anytime you had those charity basketball games, you know who they were going to bet on. to make sure they won that, Henry Payne. So this is very well deserved to have all your family and friends and teammates take the time to come out here. And it's great that this year's team is here to honor Henry Payne. When I looked back at you guys and I told Henry you were here, and I sort of mouthed to you about one of the all-time greats, we're not kidding. We're not kidding. And I'll leave you with this, and I tell all my young ball players too in the city of Springfield, keep excelling not only on the court, but off the court. With that combination, you can't lose. And maybe someday you'll have your jersey retired with the class act, smooth on and off the court, Henry Payne.
Thank you, Mayor Sano. At this time, we'd like to call upon AIC honorary degree recipient and current Springfield Housing Authority Director Denise Jordan to share some remarks.
Good afternoon. I am here to give honor to the legendary Henry Payne. I stand here to represent my father, Raymond A. Jordan, who was unable to be here tonight. I'm here with my mother, Donna, because those of you that know how my father feels about Henry Payne knows that he absolutely must not be feeling well to miss such an occasion as this. Before I left the house, he was kind of going over his speech, and I said, I think you're going to have to sit this one out. He had a whole roll ready. He was like, I got to talk about Moose. Nobody else can talk about all of the players except me. I got to be there. But I want you to know, Mr. Payne, that your village is here, right? Everyone in Mr. Payne's village, we are here. We are so proud of you. I know that Kelly is proud of her dad, and that this is, as the mayor said, long overdue. But Mr. Payne, you deserve this. It's an honor and a privilege to have you as a member of our family. As the mayor has said, you never say no. And so it's only fitting that we are all here to support you, because many of us here, you have always supported us. Whether you've been a coach, you've been a family friend, an honorary uncle to many, you have always been there. And so what is important for the gentleman playing today, from 1964 to 1968, this was the House of Payne. So I want you all to remember that as you play today and honor this legend, Mr. Henry Payne. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. And now to share some of his recollections from a teammate perspective, one of Henry's former teammates, Frank Apetizano.
Thanks very much. What a pleasure it is to be here with Henry, former teammates, and all of you. Henry and I were teammates here for 2 years, but we came across each other before we got to AIC. Obviously, you know, Henry was at Commerce, I was at Cathedral. And we were part of the inter-school league, and there were only 5 teams in that league. And we played each other twice a year, and it was pretty intense. You couldn't lose too many games and be league champs. And Mayor Sarno pointed out about those Friday doubleheaders at the field house. It was the best atmosphere high school kids could have. But where we met even before that, and just to go back a little, Henry had a good team around him. A lot of talent on that Commerce team that year. And the focus, though, in preparing for Commerce was always about Henry. Hopefully, you never contained him, you never controlled him. Hopefully, things would go well most of the game, and we'd have a shot at the end. But even before that, we met right down the street at the outdoor courts at Blunt Park. It was for the Summer League Championship. And that night, the wind was howling the whole game. So during warm-ups, we figured Mother Nature might slow Henry down a little bit. Yeah, it slowed him down for about 33 points. It was an unbelievable performance. I think he outscored our team. Needless to say, it was a lot more fun being Henry's teammate than his opponent. Henry, as you know, was a point guard. And any basketball player with the ball in his hands, especially a point guard, they can shoot, drive, or pass the ball. Henry could do all of those things as well as anybody I've ever seen. But more importantly, he knew when to do them. And to see Henry with the ball in his hands on a fast break was about as exciting as it gets on a basketball court. Our coach at the time, Bill Callahan, I was talking to him one day. I was probably pleading with him not to make me guard Henry in practice. He told me that Henry could deliver the ball to an open man better than anybody he had ever seen at any level of basketball. Very high praise, obviously. But Henry, with all that talent, all those skills, he was a very tough competitor and a great teammate. There was never a situation in a game that was too big for Henry. And we've kind of known each other for 55 years, and as has been said, Henry has never changed. To this day, he is the same humble, unassuming gentleman that he's always been. And Henry, it gives me great pleasure to congratulate you and your family for this great honor you're receiving today.
Thank you, Mr. Repettizano. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure, and I hope you'll join with me in greeting our guest of honor, Mr. Henry Payne.
Thank you. I wonder if any of you can imagine what it must feel like to have your uniform retired. I am in awe. I didn't sleep last night, and when I wake up tomorrow, I'll probably have a grin on my face. Not because I won the award, but because I probably had 55,000 pictures taken today. Smile, Henry, smile. But anyway, I want to thank AIC for taking the initiative to give me this award. I really appreciate what you did. It means the world to me. Thank you. I also want to thank, and you know, I learned a long time ago, if you start mentioning names, you're going to get in trouble because somebody's going to see you tomorrow and say, you didn't even mention me. I want to thank my whole family, and that means all of you, for being here for me. You heard some of the speakers say that I could have gone to a lot of different colleges. I had I'm humble, like they said. I don't talk about over 300 offers to go to college. I lost my father when I was 11 years old. And after the funeral, I was looking for my mother. I couldn't find her. So I went upstairs, and she was sitting on the bed. I was 11 years old. I put my arm around her, and I said, Ma, don't worry. I'll take care of you. And I think that's what I did. My mother lived to be 104. So I must have did something right. But she also taught me how not to deceive people and remain humble. And one day she sent me to the store, and everything I did, I used to run. If she sent me to the store, I ran to the store, and I ran back home. When I went to the boys' club to play basketball, I ran to the boys' club, played basketball all day, and then I ran back home. When I say she taught me not to be deceptive, I've carried that all my life. And the reason I say that is because one day she sent me to the store to get some bread. And I won't tell you how old I am. You can figure that out anyway, how old I am. But anyway, I ran to the store. I think the bread cost $0.25. She gave me $1. I ran back home. I said, here, Ma, here's the bread. She said, okay, well, I've got to do something for a while. I had 75 cents in my pocket. So I went back to the store. I ran to the store. You ever have a table talk pie, those little square ones? They were like 25, how much, 25 cents, Richie? I got home, I didn't want my mother to know I had spent her change. So I put it and hid it under the back steps of the house. I went to the house like everything was okay. She never asked me for the change. So I waited for her, and I think she went to visit my sister. Finally, it was my chance. So I went out to the back porch. I looked under the back porch, looked under the back porch, and there were 5 million ants eating my table talk pies. So I said, never be deceptive, especially to someone close to you. I am so fortunate to have had the opportunity to play with some great teammates. You heard about the records that I set, the assists that I set, and all that. I couldn't have done it if I didn't have a ball. I've had the opportunity to play with some great guys, and until this day, if I got in my car and I drove to New York and I broke down and I made a phone call, they would leave here and pick me up. And I mean that. That's how we came together. And what happens is through all of those games we played, it just brings you closer and closer and closer. We had one goal in mind, and that was to win the game. It didn't matter if you were black. It didn't matter if you were white. We even had Alan Bush on our team, who was Hispanic. Back then, that was amazing. I think our record was, 59-18 or something like that? Not bad. We did pretty well. I was fortunate enough to play with the guy who was the leading rebounder in the country for 2 years. He's sitting right back there with his head down. Moose, stand up, please. Moose, come on. Leading rebounder in the country. Also had the opportunity to play, as you heard, I'm repeating myself a little bit, with Jim Calhoun, who coached the University of Connecticut to 3 national champions. He called me Thursday night to tell me he couldn't be here because he's coaching again in Connecticut. Is it St. Joe's? St. Joe's. He's coaching there, and he couldn't be here, but he wanted to be here. And the night before, he was with Kemba Walker, as everybody knows who Kemba Walker is, who's one of his star point guards. Down in Boston, they were doing a photo shoot, so look out for it. Franco Pedasano, when he stood up here, he's just about this much taller than me. Do you ever see the movie White Men Can't Jump? That's a lie. Frank could jump out of this gym. I'm telling you, and what a great person. We still stay in contact. We all, we all call one another. Jim Mealy, Larry Freed, and a guy who was faster than I was. Anybody know? Rudy Rutherford. Rudy, where are you? Bobby Rutherford. We call him Rudy. There he is back there in the corner. Very good. Now, a lot of the guys are getting older. They would have been here, but they're down in Florida playing golf right now and called me and said, I'm sorry we can't make it. But, they're there for me. One of my favorite lines that I used that helped me become successful was one day my mother said to me, and all of you know this, that know me, I always say this. She said, I want you to read this poem. And when you read this poem, it'll help you be successful. I said, is it long? I can't remember a long poem. She said, no, it's short. And the poem said, when a task is once begun, you never leave it until it's done. And be thy labor great or small, do it well or not at all. I remember that poem helped me throughout my life. Every time I thought about it, I said, if I'm going to do something, Do it the best you can. There's so much I could say. You know, I can remember my mother. You know, I lost my father, as I told you. I would play basketball from 2:30 in the afternoon till 10 or 11 o'clock at night during the summer. Then I'd run home. And my mother was the first black supervisor at Springfield Hospital, which is now Bay State Medical. And she had to get up very, very early. But with me playing basketball from 8:30 in the morning until 10, 11 o'clock at night, in the middle of the night, my legs would cramp up. I would get Charlie horses, and I'd start screaming, "Ma, ma, ma," and she would come in and rub my legs and get those cramps out and just turn around and go right to work. She'd rub them all night so I could sleep peacefully. You don't forget that. You never forget that and what she did for me. And I'll tell you something else. I've had some great jobs. Thank you, AIC. Harvard Vanguard Medical, other places. And I thank you for providing me, with the proper education and discipline to excel in my career. And AIC is located in a small area, and you'd say, why did you pick AIC? I said, because I was not going to leave my mother and go all the way across the country. Who was going to shovel the snow? Who was going to cut the grass? Who was going to do odd jobs? I couldn't leave her. And I thank God, because the day she passed, I could look at her and have no regrets and say I did the best I could. I know I'm going to. Thank you. And I met some great people throughout my life. Art Jones was my mentor. My brother is sitting right there, my oldest brother. Unfortunately, he had to go into the military and would have been probably one of the best professional baseball players you ever seen. So it must run in the family, Bob. Okay? Thank you. And thanks for your guidance as well. Thank you very much. I also, right now, after my mother passed, went back to work because I needed to put some structure in my life. I was tired of watching CNN and Donald Trump. So I ran into Cheryl Rivera, who's the Register of Deeds, and she said, what are you doing after your mom passed? I said, I need some structure. I need to get up, shower, shave, do something. I still got a lot of energy left. And she said, I'll call you when I get sworn in. I work at the Registry of Deeds now. Thank you. All of my good friends and fellow employees, can you just kind of wave that I work with at the Registry of Deeds? Very good. Wave at me and smile, because you know I'm the Human Resource Director. I might have to fire you on Monday. But anyway, just kidding. I love you guys. Thank you for supporting me. I was watching TV the other day, just a couple of days ago. And you remember Walter Payton, the football player? They have a commercial on. And it said, very quick, it said, when you're good, you tell everybody. When you're great, they tell you. Right there. It's coming down in a minute. That means a lot. Kelly, my daughter, thank you, babe. You're always there. You're great. You probably, she has 3 jobs. She was an administrator at Ashland and Tuck College. She teaches at the maximum security prison on Monday nights. And she has a radio program, 106.3. Kelly, that's going to cost you some money, because that's a commercial for you. So, you know, I expect that later. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Congressman, Mr. Mayor, Denise, Frank, and all of you for making this a wonderful, unforgettable experience. Love you. Thank you all. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Henry Payne. Ladies and gentlemen, this time we direct your attention to the east wall of the gymnasium, where in a short period of time, Henry Payne will reveal his retired number.
This court wasn't this big when I was playing. It's getting bigger, I'm getting older.
Congratulations, Henry. And Henry, at this time, in honor of this moment, AIC head basketball coach Andy Burkholder would like to present you with a jersey for you to keep, symbolizing that this number is forever yours here at AIC. Thank you, Coach. Congratulations, Henry. Once again, let's have one more round of applause for Henry Payne.